recording. Welcome guests to another episode of the Biohacking and Bodybuilding podcast. Today we're joined by a gentleman named Bob. And Bob is wearing a makeshift Antifa costume to cover his identity because Bob is an anonymous person who has a lot of information that we'd like to learn about. Bob actually did a couple of episodes with Nick on his former channel, but unfortunately we've lost all of that stuff before. And I think having us both here together, especially me not understanding the US steroid scene, I think we'll get to learn some interesting things and have an interesting dynamic. Welcome, Bob. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So,
yeah, I don't know if people, just so a little preface, if people haven't seen the other episodes I used to have on my YouTube, we did about 3 episodes together, and I named it The Anonymous Drug Dealer. We talked about research, about chemicals, steroids, manufacturing, like all the behind the scenes stuff that most people don't even know once they get that bottle in their hands. So I think it was pretty cool talking about all that stuff. I think we should touch a base on, for these followers and people that haven't seen those episodes. But yeah, me and Bob have known each other for a long time, and we've both been in this scene for a very long time. And I think we have a lot of stuff we can even touch on that's happened recently too as well. So Leo, where did you want to go first with them?
Well, first thing I want to say to the audience that I verified the identity of Bob with a third party, and he is indeed a well-known person who was in the underground steroid market in the US. In fact, he managed apparently one of the best underground labs before it was shut down. So this is a reliable source. So thank you for joining us, Bob. To begin, I wanted to mention something. Last episode, Nick was very tired with Chad Nichols, and people were like, hey, Nick is on drugs again. This time, I'm really tired. And last time they saw me really tired, they're like, he's fake laughing. No, I'm just tired. I want to be with you guys, but we're tired. That's all. We love it. Where nothing's going on, there's no conspiracy, okay? I slept 2 hours today, and he barely slept that time, or it was late at night. So that's one thing. The second thing I wanted to say is, on this channel, many people don't know, but we do interview ex-criminals. So we've had Gene Borello, who's a associate of the Bonanno family. Next week, we're having Gunnar Lindblom, who was from the Detroit Partnership. So we do this sometimes, but this is, of course, much more relevant to us. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, to begin, Bob, how did you get into weightlifting personally?
I wanted to pick up chicks, to be honest. And basically that just led into, a domino effect of getting things.
In the early 2000s, chicks used to like muscle in the US, huh? They don't.
Yeah, now they like skinny jeans, and I won't get into the rest. But yeah, back when men were men.
I posted a picture today of when I used to lift weights, and somebody was saying, "Oh, you must have gotten the Gymshark girls." I said, "No, actually, I was just popular at the Abbey." And
oh my God.
I was very popular at the Abbey.
I was dancer there for a while.
Are you serious?
Yes.
They always used to tell me, you could dance, you could go.
It was my first job when I moved to California. That's what Ed Connors made me do. He's like, you work here, make real good money, which I did. Honestly, that job, I probably met the most influential people I ever in my life. That spot, I met everybody. And that gave me a lot of connections in later in my life that I still have to this day. And that place was like a cesspool for people that wanted to go run away from their problems and just have fun,
Yeah, cool people. It's such a cool crowd. I've never seen.
It was a fun environment there. So much fun.
Absolutely. So how did you get into using steroids personally? This is just brief stuff quickly before.
Yeah. To be honest, I got into it because I had a natural deficiency for testosterone, and I went to my doctors and was asking, hey, what's wrong with me? They did labs, and I was coming back with everything kind of fucked up. And this is before every commercial on TV was testosterone replacement therapy and whatnot. And basically they told me there was nothing could really do, and that I was just getting older and I had to deal with it. And mind you, I was 23 at the time. And my levels, naturally, I had never taken anything. They were 200, and then one was 191. So I went to the doctors for a year and a half, and they just, they're trying to give me antidepressants, So eventually I got sick of it, and I just started researching how to get it myself, and which led me into basically this whole entire world.
Were you a member of the forums back in the day?
Yeah, SSB, the old steroid, super steroid board or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right before it got busted. That was like the big one, and then there was like Outlaw Muscle that was big at the time.
Oh yeah.
Trying to think of some of the others that were at a Professional Muscle. I know that's still around.
Yeah, it's nothing like it was though. No one's even on there really. It's weird.
No, because I mean everyone now can get drugs, whereas before you on there you had to kind of build up your credibility and know people, and now where you can just go on YouTube and be like, I want drugs, and everyone's just talking about shit, whereas before no one really wanted to talk about it. Even the knowledge on the forums was horrible.
Yeah.
The stuff that I was told in the beginning was absolute wrong.
Yeah.
But so that's basically what led me down to that road.
It's an interesting coincidence that I'm actually the first person to create a thread online that was over 10 pages about trenbolone. It was the first thread ever. I got obsessed with it when I was 14, thinking that it made people very strong. I didn't know there was not much information online. People were like,
no,
she's strong. Actually, Tren is horrible if you're a powerlifter long term. But
yeah.
So I researched it a lot later. GH15 came, and we'll talk about that later, which changed a lot of things. So did you actually just go and decide to make your own the first time, or how did you get into becoming a chef yourself?
I mean, there's only so much I can talk about in that aspect for other reasons we kind of talked about.
Yourself.
But basically it kind of led me in. I was in a situation and needed some money, and it's not rocket science. It really isn't like what people make it out to be. It's just having a good supplier and being honest. This is the two biggest things I'd say. What makes you a good person from a not so good person.
When you were doing this, was the dark web available?
Yeah, I didn't want to mess with anything like that. That's like the feds are on that shit like flies on shit. I don't recommend anyone go on there unless you plan on getting caught. Eventually, it's going to happen at some point, because now they can even track like cryptocurrency and everything. It's just, right. I don't do hard drugs. I've never even tried weed, so that's just not the place for me.
Wow, interesting. So your thing was totally, I guess, okay. Well, I don't know how much details you can discuss about the distribution aspect. Eventually,
I can talk about anything about that. Yeah,
you can talk about that.
Oh yeah, I'll talk about that.
So did you end up having like distributors that knew people in personally in gyms, or was it online mostly?
Yeah, online. I mean, I was kind of fortunate in one aspect because there was another supplier that kind of got me into the ropes. So I was kind of vetted from the beginning because the supplier was very well known, and that's kind of how I got linked up with Nick years and years ago.
Yeah.
So he kind of gave me the ropes and kind of taught me how to do everything, and I just kind of went off on my own. So
when you were talking about the feds being on those boards, now I know today's day and age is a little different, so let's talk about like right now, fast forward. Do you think it's risky for these kids to still be shipping like their personal shit to their homes all the time? Because I try to like how like, scale 1 to 10. You think
steroids? I'd say no. If you're fucking around with Rex, then yeah, because they do have drug sniffing machines. It'll show exactly what's in there, but there's so many compounds for steroids that they're not really plugging those into the computers.
Right.
So if you're like shipping coke, like that's going to come up in the computer, heroin, fentanyl, like that's like suicide missions, I call, because it's like, it may sneak through, but if not, they're going to let it go and they're just going to watch you.
Right. Okay.
See what happens.
So like personal stuff for someone that's going to do like mail order stuff or whatever, it's not putting a big threat on them essentially. Then.
No, there's so many packages coming in. That's why, where it's even like a canine, like canines won't be able to detect steroids because they only teach them a few cents. Right. Just like the machines, they only have so many machines that are going to be able to detect that. They even have them at the airports. Like if you go to other countries and whatnot, and you have like fruit in your bag or anything else, it'll come up in the machine, and they'll pull your shit out and search it.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
They haven't at least gotten to that with steroids yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So what happens when you order something in the mail, which happens to a lot of people, and you get a letter that says it was confiscated, but nothing happens to you? What do you know that? What is that? Does that mean they're watching you, or they just?
No, they're just doing it to scare you.
Oh, really? They usually that's something I'm not interested in. So, was Alibaba active as a website when you were doing your stuff?
Oh yeah, you could buy anything on there. They had
a lot of people.
Tren tests, everything.
Really?
Yeah, it was like oh yeah. Actually, that's where my friend at the time had told me, he's like, oh, you just go in there. They had sources that were vetted, 10 years on it for selling raws. Wow. So you could find anything.
That's so funny that site now is how popular it is in mainstream.
I know. Now you can't get shit on there. They've kind of, because now people know. Yeah, you can get anything on there. Yeah, the one now that you can get anything on is India Mart.
Oh, really?
Oh, I don't know that.
Yep. Oh yeah, even your medication, stuff like that. Like I tell people, you need whatever Humalog, or you have like, I don't know, depression medication or whatever, and it's too much in the US, go on there. You'll have people fighting tooth and nail to get business from you to sell you like a $5 pack of meds.
That's fucking crazy. Okay.
That's way better than going to clearskypharmacy.biz or all
dealing with all that bullshit. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. So I wanted to mention that because I think a lot of viewers don't realize that Alibaba is sort of like an eBay for producers in China. They manufacture all kinds of things. You can order a kg of Phenibut if you want. You can, like, for example, the Nootropics Depot, that company, they just order from Alibaba and repackage it. I mean, that's what everybody does. So you can just pick the middleman if you'd like. And it doesn't, I'm not talking about illegal things. Like, I'm talking about legal things.
Yeah, everyday things,
Yeah, 7,8-dihydroxyflavone, for example, which increases neurogenesis in the brain, which is very expensive. It's thousands per kg. You can order it from China. So that's one thing. The second thing I wanted to ask is, in the real world, when people order raws from China and make them at home, do they ever test them at a US laboratory? I mean, can you do that? Because it's an illegal compound.
Yeah, no, you can't test in the US laboratory, but I mean, there's places you can send them overseas. I've done it. I used to do it. Now the big one is, what's his face there? I'll have to find out what his name was, but.
You mean Palumbo's roid test?
No. Send them overseas, and they'll actually do like a mass spec test on them and tell you exactly how much is in there.
You don't think those roid tests are reliable, do you?
Oh, to a point, because I mean, years ago when I was selling, I had Halo come back. That was it looked good to me, and then someone had tested it and that came back bad, and man, that caused a lot of shit. And the Chinese, they're
bad as in another chemical, or just garbage?
Nothing. Yeah, it was nothing.
Oh wow.
So they're sneaky like that. They'll do stuff because the colors aren't I mean, they're only so accurate. Like the that expensive. I have one of those test kits. It'll be like, because I remember Halo specifically, it was yellow. And when I tested, it was like yellowish orange, but the difference, it was so minute, when I tested the real stuff, because at that point I had to send it out and make sure, because I had to repay everyone. Like I said, it was a big mess, but that's why they're only good within reason, and I tell people you just got to get in with someone that you trust, that's going to have a good supplier. Like, I had been doing it so long, I can tell you just by looking at it and the smell, if it's going to be good. I mean, if it's going to be, a few milligrams here or there, I obviously wouldn't be able to tell that. But I mean, I can tell just by looking at stuff if it's going to be legit or not. Just from doing it for so long.
I just want to mention for the viewers, what are the things that someone would want to test? So scientifically. So one thing is, for example, contaminants like cadmium, mercury, heavy metals. Would also be bacterial or fungal contaminants or something else like that. The second thing could be the purity of the product. So the product may have some filler or something else in it that's not the same molecule. But a third thing that most people don't do is a consistency of the molecular structure of the product. So depending on the factories or whatever is the place where they make it, depending on the quality of the place, they'll be able to make it more consistent or not as consistent. So for example, this is why generic Adderall is worse than pharmaceutical Adderall. Pharmaceutical Adderall is, the brand name Adderall is extremely well made. The isomers, the dextro rotation and the levo rotation are always exact. Whereas the generic, sometimes you'll find there's more of the levo than the dextro and so on. So there's a lot of things that could be going on when you're injecting these things into yourself, other than it just not having testosterone. It could have other things in it, and it could have testosterone that's not all testosterone. Some of it is slightly different because of mistakes in the manufacturing. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
And I tell people the same thing, because, people will get stuff and they'll be like, oh, the pure, it's testing at 99 milligrams out of 100 or whatnot. But, what they're not taking account for is if that product was damaged or if they overheated it. Because if you're all the stuff has a melting point. And some people, I've read on the forums and know other labs where they'll just put shit inside of an oven, or they'll just crank the heat up on a like a burner or whatnot and just basically melt it into suspension. And you can't do that. Like Tren is probably one of the most sensitive products as far as heat and light. I would probably even recommend putting Tren in a brown bottle versus a clear. It's so sensitive.
I've seen I've seen that. I've seen people do that.
Yeah, like when I would make Tren, I use no heat. You just I put it in a bottle and I let it sit overnight, and it'll suspend itself. If not, then it's probably not that good a Tren. But
why is some Tren darker than other Tren?
Because they're burning it. And that's where you'll get more side effects from it too, because people will attribute Tren side effects as to being strong, and I'm like, no, like side effects is not a good sign of drugs. Yeah. That's your body having a reaction to it, because it can't produce. It basically can't. What's the word I'm looking for?
Absorb, process.
It can't process it. It's having a hard time processing it, because for whatever reason, the molecular structure has been ruined. But, it's the same thing with, other drugs too, because testosterone, other things, people be like, oh, this lab's better than that because it's, they're probably making it better. And that's why I tell people heat is probably the most important part in making steroids. It's literally like the easiest thing to do, but it's the easiest thing to screw up. And you gotta spend you gotta spend good money on good equipment, and gotta have a digital scale and a thermometer, and make sure that it's not going too high to ruin stuff.
I had a personal experience. I'll tell a personal story about this. I moved to a new country when I was younger, and I didn't know anybody there, so I ordered some stuff, and it was not good stuff. I didn't realize I wasn't that experienced. It was Trenbolone specifically. And I was injecting it, and I'm not somebody who gets acne. I was getting acne on my shoulders. One day I was training with somebody who was, like he knows what he's doing. And he saw my acne and said, "You've got bad gear." I thought he was like ascientific. I was like, this doesn't make sense. But now, like years later, I realized this is a lot of inflammation. It could be a lot of inflammation in my body attacking the skin because there's bacteria on the skin. So it starts attacking it because the body's sensing all these kind of something that's damaging to the body somehow.
I tell everyone the same thing. They don't fucking get it. With the pimples being in the surface area where they inject, it's like such a problem with so many people. You see guys with like really bad boils and shit on their shoulders and chest and arms. And I experienced it myself when I was younger, when I used to not want to spend the good money on, at the time there was real pharmaceutical gear. And I was like, oh, I'll just buy whatever test, doesn't matter. I'll just buy whatever equipoise, doesn't matter. But I'll spend the money on that. And then I would always have these acne problems. I'm not a kid that had pimples growing up. So like for me to have like boils and like weird shit going on my arms, like it would freak me the fuck out. But it was always because I was injecting the gear in those areas, and I would have that surface acne from it, though. But not on my face, but just literally just right where I put the injections. And like you said, it was very weird at the time when I didn't know.
Was it always in your shoulders or wherever you injected?
Well, because I would do my arms, shoulders, you know, that whole vicinity. Sometimes it would go to my chest a little bit if I did too close to my front delt. It literally was like right by it. It was very weird, man. At the time, I thought like I was having like an allergic reaction to something, and then I realized it's the fucking stuff I'm sticking in my body everywhere. Because that was when I'm doing all my shots all over the place, and like these pimples are everywhere, man. I was like, I was not a person that had acne. I never struggled with acne, thank God. So my skin for me was like always blemish free. But then at that time in my life, it was so bad. I mean, and I see kids now like post pictures on Instagram, and I'm like, holy fuck, like what are you putting in yourself? Like, your body's telling you something when you got like boils all over you and like cystic acne, you know?
Yeah. Ugh. Bob, does this resonate with your experience also?
What's that?
Like the acne being from like overheated or bad gear or something being.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The other classic move is that they'll just load it up with benzyl alcohol.
Yeah.
That's what
quote unquote, you know, sterilize or make it better. And that is, you know, pharmaceutical companies will put like less than 1% in there.
Yeah, I was just having this conversation with like.
You don't want more than 1%. I remember injecting shit like when I was first doing it, whatnot, and you could taste the alcohol when you inject it. You know, that's, yeah. Because a lot of times.
So many kids brag about it though.
What that tells me is that was shipped in a shampoo bottle here to the United States, and someone didn't filter it, and they put it in bottles. That's exactly what it is. Yep. It literally comes in like bottles like this.
Yeah, and they used to ship it in like ketchup packets too and stuff like that.
Yep. They'll pour it into the vials. They won't filter it. So it's been heated in plastic at probably like 130 degrees in the plane coming over here.
But the benzoyl alcohol thing is true though. People get a lot of site injection pain. They get inflammation, like redness.
Oh yeah,
for days, and they're like,
I remember
the new term now is PIP. Do you have PIP?
Yeah,
Do you have PIP?
Yeah.
I'm like, shut the fuck up with the PIP. Like that's not good, dude. That it's inflamed and red and in pain that you can't touch your shoulder. Like, holy, like, do you think there's something wrong with it? No, it's fine. That's supposed to happen. Like. That happens all the time, like probably like 3, 4, or 5 times a week from kids. Like, dude, I got this welt. I'm like, yeah, I wonder what the fuck that is.
You couldn't pay me to do your job, man.
Dude, it's fucking torturous sometimes. Like, there's days.
I don't know how you do it. I see you got your number up there answering questions, and oh my God. Because if I go to hell, that's what it would be.
See, I try to play like reverse
business, though.
I try to play like reverse psychology on myself because I'm like, if I had someone like me helping me, like I would look up to that guy, like I really would, and I really value that man for the rest of my life. So I try to put myself in those kids' shoes now because I had nobody. I had GH15 like you guys. I was on a forum, wild west, and it should not be like that anymore. And there's enough information people should educate themselves, but there's so many kids that are not willing to do that. So if I can just be like, hey, bro, just do this. That's literally like a second of my day, and maybe that kid will be a lifetime. You know, maybe follower, believer, you'll turn into something, you know, down the road. Or even just, hey, like I saved that kid from fucking getting an infection and then obviously getting surgery that day. Cause like he probably freaked out, went to his doctor or told his mom or something, you know, like that happens literally like every single week of my life. There's so many kids that just, bro, I don't know what to do. What should I'm like, take some Advil, put a heating pad on it, and give it 2-3 days, it'll be fine. They're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, they're like, dude, it's gone. I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, you don't have to get your arm amputated.
No, but that's true. That's actually how someone develops self-esteem. That's how I
did. It's really bad.
No, I mean, when I was like rebuilding myself in my mid-20s, I thought, who would I want to be when I was a child? Like, who would I look up to? And then I tried to become that person. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what, I've been trying to do that for a long time, and the best as I can, whether it's on videos, it's personal, it's an email, or I'm just educating people, like I said, or doing these things like with you guys. It's all helping somebody, we see the comments.
Now, the benzyl alcohol, you're saying they're not even filtering it and they're adding extra benzyl alcohol just in case, like, it might infect somebody. Is that what's the...
Yeah, yeah.
And so...
I've seen stuff like it where, because they'll get the stuff and they'll let it sit around. Like, I remember Nick sent me pictures a while back. I don't know what lab it was. Remember you had the stuff and it was like turning into gelatin?
That was Mike from research. Remember?
Okay, yeah. What that is that's been sitting out probably without a lid on it or whatnot. So just bacteria got in there, and it'll start to turn like a bit of a gel.
Yeah,
and
it looks like when they extract fat out of a body. It's like just clumps of yellow shit. Oh, it's fucking.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's from leaving it out. I did that once because I had stuff. I remember it was a whole freaking 1,000 milliliters of Master, and Master, and will do it for whatever reason the quickest out of all of them. But I don't know why or whatever it is has to do with the compound and bacteria. Like you let that sit out for like 2 days, it's toast, like gone. I mean, you could filter it out, but it'll chew up an entire filter.
What's the easiest
just to get that stuff out?
Okay, yeah. First of all, how do you filter it? I mean, not too many details, like not so anyone can learn.
Yeah, I don't want to get into my filtering because I don't want people.
No. I don't want to teach anyone anything, and we're not promoting steroids. We're just trying to talk about how.
Yeah, for personal use, you could get like a caulking gun and like a 60 cc syringe, and you buy like the syringe filters. I recommend 0.2 or no 0.0 is on
0.2,
whatever 0.02 microns, and that'll take everything out because it's like different bacteria and everything. And I want to say the bacteria is around 0.4, so the 0.2 actually takes all that out, and the gear will be smoother. There's a big difference, and that's what part of the difference was with mine that people noticed. It'll take away the pain, especially with like a compound like Primo. It's a bigger molecule, a lot more painful. You filter that down to 0.2, it'll be smooth as shit, and it won't cause any pip. That's one of the biggest signs if Primo is hurting. It's because it's not filtered.
Yeah.
What's the easiest molecule to work with?
Probably Deca or EQ. It comes liquid, but I'd say probably Deca or Test.
Interesting.
And you got to be careful if you're ordering that in the summer. It'll come in like melted. So it'll melt through the box. So I used to get all my kilos in the winter months.
Oh, that's crazy.
Keep it somewhere cool. Yeah.
So this shows just the intricacy, like how much we're trusting. I don't use steroids, but what I'm saying is people in the US or abroad where things are controlled, how much we're trusting people we don't really know. I mean, this is a level of integrity that the chef has to have to try to make sure it doesn't get heated, that he doesn't order in the summer. I mean, you basically got to have an angel as a chef to get something good.
Yeah. To get to the quality that I had, and I don't want to sound like I'm better than anyone else, but it's also part of my OCD. I use the same stuff out of everyone else's batches. So like if I was going to if it was going to be made for me, it was going to be the best. So everyone else got the same stuff. I never made anything for me. I just pick out of the same batch as everyone else, which is another thing. Like people say, oh, there's 2 batches and this and that. I mean, I used to make stuff 1,000 at a time. I can't even fathom trying to make 2 batches. Like I can't just make 10 bottles.
No.
Like it would. I mean, I guess theoretically I could, but it wouldn't even to measure it out, to filter it, like all that. It wouldn't even be worth my time. If you're making 2 batches, like screw people and this and that, like you're going to go through so much aggravation, especially now where anyone can just test shit. Like those days are over.
Yeah.
You know, because a company gets caught like that, like you're toast.
Yeah.
You know, you're out of business.
One more thing about the powders. Do they say that they're micronized when they come?
Yes. Yeah. The only ones that aren't are usually like, and you have to request is like Winstrol or test Noester. Because if you don't get that micronized to put in a water base, it's gonna like clog the syringe.
The TNA shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So you gotta have that stuff. Usually request to be micronized.
Did you used to make oil-based Winstrol or water-based? Like, did it matter to you?
I never fucked around with water-based. It's not even worth the risk. I tell people you want to just buy like Desmas or something, but I tell people it's not even worth the risk of, and this is my opinion, to even inject water-based Winstrol. I did it once because I had a pro tell me, "Oh, it's this or that." No, my ass looked like a golf ball, and it was not worth the risk even getting an infection. Because they're saying, "Oh, well, the bioavailability versus taking oral, will take an extra fucking pill." It's not like didn't you blow up your arm or whatever?
I couldn't even do nationals.
It's not even worth it. Yeah.
I had to pull out a week out. I fucking fucked myself because of a fucking tricep injection.
That's why it comes in oral now, anyway. So it's like, don't take it from me. I've tried it. It's not worth it.
Just all right. Now, I wanted to ask if you would know, do you know if these Chinese guys are willing to make nanoparticles or no? No, I'm not talking about steroids, because I'm curious, because I'm very into the brain and I want to build a nasal device to, for example, take nanoparticles of turmeric into the brain. This is researched and it's going to come out in the next 2 years, but we could beat them to it. But I'm curious how much these Chinese guys would charge to make nanoparticles. Do you think they do that stuff or no? They're not that advanced.
I mean, they'll make anything, but the thing is the quality and everything. They're really tough to trust, those people. I'd almost say go to India before you go to China.
Yeah, I think so too. Pakistan.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably hook you up with some people that might be able to point you in the right direction, but still, I only trust them so much. It's that's why I liked working with the Russians better, because those guys is no bullshit.
So those guys would verify basically the product for you from the Chinese or the Asians, and then you would go through them. So
they tested it before it even went to me.
Wow, they're really
I paid almost double the price for everything, but I don't care. It's getting everything exactly how it should be, not dealing with the issues that I had dealt with other Chinese suppliers. It wasn't even worth it. I didn't even care, like a kilo, a Trenbolone, I'd spend like $7,500 versus like $5,000, just to make sure it's not, when you're dealing with the numbers that it doesn't even matter. Peace of mind is worth a lot more.
Now, I wanted to ask you about oils. What are your favorite oils to use and why?
MCT oil. I like, that was my favorite because it was smooth. Some of the other stuff, because like guys, I had pros that didn't like shooting large amounts of oil. Some of like the grapeseed oil or whatnot, is a little bit thicker. Some people had allergies to it, but I had other people had allergies to MCT as well. So they weren't able to use my product. But overall finish too, I liked it for filtering. There was another one I never got to play with. I might hear in the future for personal use, because I'm kind of curious about it, is the Megoil 80. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I don't even know. I'm kind of out of the loop. It's supposed to be a super like carrier oil that'll hold high concentrations, and it's supposed to be thinner than MCT oil. So like I say, I haven't been able to for a few years, but I kind of want to play with it just to see what it was and what it's about.
Do you think, Leo, you probably get this question a lot, but there's so many, people that come to me about issues with, you know, maybe they have allergic reaction to something. I don't think these guys even think about the difference in carrier oils and how much that makes a difference on when you're buying a product, you know, a steroid or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, listen, you could be allergic to the carrier oil. That's a high probability that could be happening. And then when they switch gear, they're like, oh shit, yeah, that was probably the problem. Or it could have been the BA as well. But sometimes it is like you said, people do get allergic reactions to the oils. I mean, did that happen a lot during business wise? Like, do people say, not necessarily with MCT, just in general, like that was a general complaint?
Yep. So what I've done with athletes and people, because so it's just part of the nature of who I was, that I actually cared about the people that I was distributing to, is if I ran into someone like that, I wanted to find out exactly what it was. So what I would do is, on my own dime, would send this client like a few bottles of stuff. I would send them a bottle, and I bottle everything and label it 1, 2, 3, 4, or what have you. And I put one bottle the carrier oil that was MCT. Another one there I put benzyl benzoate. And one I would mix the compound they used, and then another one I would just put like a random oil in.
Right.
I would send that to them, and I would have them basically perform their own type of allergen test. I'd say, you know, just take like I don't know, paper clip or whatever, and I'm like, scratch your skin, write on it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then put it on, wait 10 minutes, and take a picture and send it to me. And I wouldn't tell them the combination. And then, so if you have a red and raised area, just kind of like an allergist does, that's going to tell you have an allergy to whatever is in there. You know, and then you got some people that it doesn't even come back, you know, and it's just, they're shooting wrong, or they're shooting into an already like heavily injected area.
Yeah,
you know, so that was kind of one thing I was kind of doing your job, where you got to kind of coach some of these people that don't know. I mean, I had one guy that was with my friend at the time that was making stuff, and the kid, he was going for like nationals, and he kept injecting only in the same side the entire time for months. And one side of his glute, like it wasn't even doing the other, his shoulders or whatnot. And he ended up getting an infection. You know, and they were trying to blame it on him. He's like, you know, you shot one cheek 33 fucking times. Like, I don't know. So
I can't even imagine what that sounded like going in too. It probably sounded like potato chips. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Oh, I know. Yep, the crackling.
The scar tissue built up. Like,
oh yeah.
People don't realize like all that scar tissue could lead to an infection when you keep stabbing it like that, and people don't realize that. If you leave that scar tissue just sitting there under the skin for all that time, right? Encapsulates. Yeah. Actually,
this is such an interesting topic. Let's bring some science into it. So no one's ever talked about this in bodybuilding. People always ask, why do bodybuilders get scar tissue and it doesn't go away? It stays for a long time. The reason is scar tissue is protein. And you're eating protein every 2 hours, and you're trying never to lose muscle. So your body won't burn that scar tissue off.
Hell no.
You gotta break it down and do weird stuff to try to get it off, because you're still growing. So until you do a Tom Prince and go skinny, you're gonna have the scar tissue there.
I've had scar tissue grow, like literally grow, like weeds. Like, because I would ignore it in the beginning. I'm like, oh, it's supposed to be there. It's repairing. You know, everyone's like, don't touch it. Everyone's like, don't touch it. It's going to get worse. Because sometimes it would almost like spread out a little bit, like in a weird way, especially if it had a little bit of infection lingering, because I wasn't taking any anti-inflammatory. And I'd be like, oh, I don't want to touch that again. It'll get worse. So I used to leave these knots everywhere. And then I was like, what the fuck am I doing? So I researched it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what I got to do, X, Y, and Z. And then it would go away. I never had a problem ever again from that. But then I figured out how to like microdose things better. But the scar tissue thing, people... Like, I don't know how pro bodybuilders even walk around with scar tissue. It drives me nuts that they're that stupid. It drives me nuts.
The microdosing thing needs to be accepted by everyone in bodybuilding.
I should patent it somehow.
Yeah, you should patent it. It should be forced by the organization. Like the IFBB has to say, you're no longer allowed to do 2 CCs in one go. Don't do that anymore.
Fucking, it's Boston's fault that people do that.
Why do you want a shelf in your glute? Because they think sometimes it looks better. I think that's what they think.
Well, people think that's a muscle.
Yeah.
They're like, damn, his glutes are huge. I'm like, bro, do you realize those balls on the top of his ass is all scar tissue? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How come it goes like striations like this, nice, and then all of a sudden it goes, brump? Like, that's not muscle. It doesn't happen. The top of your glute randomly, like.
So does Hadi Chupin just shoot one shoulder and not the other? Is
I
that
don't know. That's why I was thinking that too. Like,
by the way, I didn't notice this. Lucy pointed it out to me. She's like, "Wait a minute, why is this guy's shoulders on TV the opposite direction?" I was like,
bro, it was so bad the other day. I was like, "What the fuck?" Why? I'm like, "Why would you video yourself when you have that in a tank top? Like, where's the common sense?"
Honestly, you need to spread your message because they genuinely don't know. Your microdosing thing.
You really think those guys are at that level and they really don't know how to do that? You really think?
I mean, he's doing.
I mean, it's apparent, obviously.
Even if he was trying to like make them wider, at least get the same angle. You know, like Jerry Ward. Jerry Ward has a scar tissue here. You see it in every video. He knows he talks.
Yeah, it sticks right out. Yeah,
it's in the same angle though because he kept hitting that spot. But at least it was the same spot. He didn't do it the opposite side.
Yeah, that's true. Lopsided.
So, you know, what would be the like if you had to give, not give, but like if people in the US were trying to beware of how to notice if gear goes badly. You commented on, first of all, these allergic reactions. Oh, wait, before we do that, I want to mention one more thing, sorry, about the oils. So there's this discussion now in bodybuilding. I don't know if you've heard about this, Bob, but the discussion is that basically people are saying that the grapeseed oils and these things are very inflammatory naturally, and MCT oils are always less inflammatory. Now, this may be true. Technically, biologically, the not saturated fats are more likely to get oxidized and turn into, you know, dangerous molecules in the body. But also, the saturated fats are technically neurotoxic, and they raise LDL cholesterol. But the nice thing about MCT oils, if you can pick the exact MCT oil, like for example, if you pick lauric acid, which is carbon 10, lauric acid is a direct agonist of the PPAR gamma receptor that telmisartan also agonizes, the cousin of cardarine's PPAR delta. Just wanted to say that. But so what would be your advice to the audience if they're trying to figure out if they're getting the right stuff other than noticing pimples and the pip? Is there anything else?
I mean, you could try talking to your supplier. Most of them probably won't, but you know, find out what's in it. You know, ask your supplier what kind of oil. Some will say, "Oh, it's a secret blend." You know, this guys will mix like safflower, MCT, and so why I don't know, but maybe to sound special. But that's probably the only recommendation I could say, you know, is just get to know who your person is and try. And if not, you know, try and find someone that will work with you, you know, or even a coach, you know, because if you have a good coach, they're going to usually know people and kind of what's in it or whatnot too. Again, that comes back to knowing the right people in this industry. Yeah. You get what you pay for.
That's true. That's very true. If you know the right people, you get the right stuff. That's very true.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, being the only person among us that was in the Middle East and using hormones there, I want to comment on this Kuwait, Dubai stuff, a lot of bodybuilders being there. I just wanted to let you guys know. So I tried hormones in different countries. And in the Middle East, you know, like 200 milligrams of testosterone would be smooth. It would be easy to shoot. You would immediately grow. You'd get, you know, here, 500 milligram testosterone per cc would hurt, would get stuck, and you would not react to it at all. You could sometimes take 3 grams of testosterone, and it would be like 700 back there. Yeah. I don't know when pros here in the US are telling their doses, like on Fuad's show, and they say I take 750 testosterone. Maybe they're using that stuff there. But the 750 kind of like underground average in the US here is actually like 200 milligrams there. This is my experience. And it's like poisonous and it hurts you and all kinds of things. You know, what do you think about that? Because what they have there basically is like Pakistani and Iranian pharmaceutical companies trying their best to produce very good products. Like Tren is still there.
Yeah. It comes back to how it's being made again, because pharmaceutical companies, they're not going to burn the stuff. They're going to cook it over, you know, the exact temp, you know, because you basically have to figure out, I found my old notebook the other day, actually. The black book, literally. So we'll say, for example, let's see if one in here. Find a sensitive one. Yeah, like Tren. I want to say its melting point is right around like between 95 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is Celsius, but if you're going anything more than that, you're starting to damage the hormone. Even something as simple as actually test D, exactly what we're talking about. I have it at 90, between 96 and 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Because that's why I said you can't order it during the summer.
Yeah,
because
literally.
it's going to come in. Yeah, it's going to come in all melted or like liquid. And
I know it's that low for that stuff.
That's very low.
Yeah,
That's
Deca's the same too. Yeah, I've had it. You can't leave it out in the car or anything.
Damn.
So,
now this
is a soggy ass box.
Yeah, which isn't a good sign. The Deca is going to smell like cheese too. It'll stink everything up.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, that's how you know it's Deca.
So when we say damage the molecule, what do we mean? Guys, just for the audience to understand, if you slightly change a molecule, it could do a completely different thing in the body. Like, for example, like random molecules do random things that we don't expect. Quercetin, for example, agonizes the vitamin D receptor. Quercetin's from onions. You would never think that this molecule from onions happens to go to the vitamin D receptor and lock onto it, right? So and these random steroids, tiny modifications make them, for example, agonize the progesterone receptor, like Deca, Trenbolone. They agonize the progesterone receptor. Ment, for example, a cousin of Ment, agonizes the progesterone receptor more than progesterone. So just slight modifications. So this could actually happen in heat. Bonds could break, things could change, and now you're actually having a different result. It's not just that it's not as good, it's different.
Yep. And Bob is back.
Okay, Bob is back. Actually, I really like the name Bob and Billy.
well, it's technically a Robert, right? You're technically a Robert.
Yeah.
Robert. So the next thing I wanted to ask you about before we get into some more exciting stuff and less of an interview, last thing is the fake pharmaceuticals. Now, maybe this was a little bit past your time, I think, or before your time. But there used to be a time where there was a lot of fake pharmaceuticals. For example, there's somebody famous for selling a lot of fake pharmaceuticals in San Diego. Although he did not snitch, but he sold a lot of fake GH. And so some people used to sell fake Bayer or fake GH, a lot of fake GH. How common is that now? And how hard is it to do? And where does that stuff come from?
I don't think it's as relevant. I mean, I do remember like a lot of the older the ampules, the single ampules that were coming in that were bad. Yeah, and that was probably like, if I remember correctly, for me, it'd be around like 2010 to like 2013, if I remember. I don't think it's as relevant now because of the testing. Like you can literally anyone can go to Janishik, and send something to him, and he's gonna, test it for $75. So that, again, these companies, if they are selling them and they're getting known for sending bad product, they're just going to go out of business. Because there's so many good companies now. So it's just, it's not even worth it. Because you can go on Pro Muscle and there's like 75 vetted companies right now, and if they're sending bad shit, they're just going to kick them off.
Yeah.
Plus, it takes so much energy to fake like a growth hormone kit.
It does. It's not even like, that's the one thing I always said. I'm like, it would literally cost me like for testosterone like $1 a bottle to make. Like, you know what I mean. So
what's the cheapest and most expensive ones to make? We didn't ask you that.
Primo's the most expensive. That's very expensive. And then the cheapest is like probably like Test Prop.
And
make it under $1 a vial, completed with a label.
Jesus Christ!
Nice margins. That's very nice.
Yep. It wasn't bad.
Actually, for the audience that's interested in these kind of topics, these are two good books to check out: Narcoeconomics and McMafia. I've read this book twice. It's an amazing book. Just for the audience, they always ask me for book recommendations because of this background. I forgot to say in the beginning. Now, I want to ask you another thing. Are bodybuilders willing to do time?
As far as what, like a prison?
Yeah. Are they willing to go for 2 years when they get caught dealing in their gym? Are they, Do they have that honor code between each other, or is it sort of an industry where that's not like, it's not sort of, because they're not criminals, you know? They're athletes.
Yeah. I mean, if you go and you're ratting other people, you're kind of like, you're toast. You'd have to move.
Yeah, like there's a guy in Canada, he just moved to the other side of Canada.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't.
You know what that is, right?
I never did hand-to-hand transactions. I call those suicide missions because you're going to get someone eventually that's going to turn on you. But the profit margins are, yeah, the profit margins are like insanely high, because I would have people that would just buy like literally like $2,000-$3,000 every like 2 weeks of stuff, and they would sell the stuff for probably 3 times of what they were buying it from me. And because they're selling it to clients and stuff like that, and but their risk is a lot higher, so I wouldn't want any part of that. But
do you know anything about, now we can talk about this only because he's passed away and rest in peace, otherwise I would not mention it, but did you know about Rich Piana in California?
Yep.
Was he well known to you wherever you used to live? I mean, he's known across the US?
Oh yeah, I knew him. I mean, I used to see him at the trade shows.
No, I mean as the main supplier of Southern California.
Oh, of growth hormone?
Steroids, growth hormone.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us all knew. It's just Tatanka's. I mean, at least from where I didn't know him personally like that, but the people I did just said that he always had good growth connections because he was dealing with all the HIV people.
Yes.
So he got into that that market, and that's how he started making his money. I don't know anything about the anabolics and whatnot. I only knew him from that growth hormone aspect.
Could be more. I don't know. I mean, my friend who was his friend for 20 years told me that he supplied most of Southern California for a long time.
Yeah.
He was the biggest guy, and he got away with it, and he passed away. So we can talk about it now, and it's pretty cool that he got away with it. And he
was he selling narcotics too, or just roids?
No, I only heard about steroids.
Oh, okay.
Only
usually you'll be safe. The minute you start getting into anything like pills and shit like that, that's when you start getting custody people. Not that I'm calling people that do that shit custody, but you're going to get people that are going to be like that, that are going to start ratting, because the feds and shit like that, they don't necessarily want to deal with this. There's no money in it. But once you start getting into hard drugs, the price goes up a lot more, but the risk, it's like risk versus reward. You're dealing cocaine, you're making a lot of money. Steroids, you don't make a lot. You can, but you're going to work, 10 times harder. But your federal penalties are less than 3 years versus cocaine. It starts at 5.
I was about to say, like, what do you think? What in today's day and age, if you got caught with, obviously I'm not going to say what you got caught with. I'm not going to talk about that.
No, we won't. Yeah.
But let's say somebody was doing what you did. Okay, in today's day and age, what's it's their first offense. What do you think the severity of would it be?
Well, the statutory limitations for a federal sentence is 3 years.
That's it? That's
it. Yeah, you could have 10,000 vials. But the only thing, the way they start getting onto you is money laundering. Money laundering is like a 5-year. Well, depending on how much you're doing. And if you're doing something like Musclehead did, remember Musclehead was running shit through his tanning salon, like that they start putting stuff into shell corporations, stuff like that. You just enhance your penalties like big time because you're washing dirty money.
Now they can't prove anything, and they're gonna fucking come after for everything.
Oh no, they'll find it all, but because there's all transactions basically, because that's what all of like South Florida used to do is, they'd sell cocaine, they'd open up hairdresser place in bars and shit like that, and they just wash money. That's called that's money laundering. You're taking dirty money and turning it into clean money.
Like Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Marijuana stores in LA. I mean, that's all cash business. So a lot of those people are actually drug dealers that own a store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can move.
Yeah. Exactly. So like if you have a gun, then you could be looking, you're looking at 5 years minimum on that. So, but if it's just the drug fence alone, you had nothing else, it's up to 3 years.
So you're telling me the maximum penalty in the U.S. for federal, even sending through the mail hormones is 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Is that so? Really?
For steroids, yeah, because it's a Schedule 3 drug.
Okay, interesting. Now, do they care more about the generally? Do these kind of people you think care more about the? You said that they care about the money that people are making. So people are making more from cocaine. They care more about that than the actual health risks, I think, right? They care about the seed.
Yeah, like when the feds come to your house, they're not looking to grab drugs. They're looking to grab assets. So, because when they operate their what would you call it? Their busts and stuff like that.
Force, all that shit.
They need to show income. Like I said, all this comes back to money. So if they have a guy that doesn't have a job and he owns a house and a car, they're taking your house, they're taking the car, they're gonna get whatever's in there, and then they'll either keep the house and use it for like witness protection or something like that, or they'll take it and sell it.
Oh, so you're saying that's funding their projects?
Yeah.
Oh.
And they'll take anything else that's in your house. You got a watch, you got anything that's going to be worth money, they're going to take and they're going to sell it, and then that goes back into their asset forfeiture program.
Yeah, they took everything.
Which pays for all this, because like the feds, like if they're working a case, say in Jersey, and it starts taking off into Ohio, they'll just pick up and go to Ohio, and in their contracts it states that they have to say in the nicest possible place. So if it's a 5-star hotel, those agents are staying in a 5-star hotel per their contract. But if they're taking off into Mexico and they got to sleep in the woods because that's the nicest thing they have. But generally that's not how it works. So they're taken care of very, very well, and it costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's why everything comes back to money. There's no money in steroids. You're going to get some guy that's got maybe 10 grand in his house or whatever and a bunch of vials, and that's it. Whereas cocaine, it's always going back down south, and they just keep, they can trace that, versus steroids are all coming from overseas in China.
Which makes one question why somebody would, now, not you, of course, I know you're reformed. And by the way, to the audience, you're reformed. Bob is reformed. He's not, we're not encouraging anyone to do anything like that. What about those, if somebody was trying to be lucrative now, he would rather go to a gray area market like research chemicals. I'm not talking about SARMs and stuff. I'm talking about phenibut, I'm talking about kratom, for example. Kratom is legal. People making millions and millions of dollars on kratom. People are saving their futures of just importing from Indonesia. You get one guy in Indonesia, you get a couple of different varieties, but that's saturated, I think. Nick and I talked about this before, but there's so many of these research chemicals, and to be honest, most of them people don't know about. Do you think that's a more attractive market for people like that?
Could be, because in the end, it's all about money.
Because it's not illegal, technically.
People that get in that situation, it's either they don't want to work or they're in a bad situation and need money. So that's why people usually turn to narcotics, because there's always a market.
But legality-wise, he's saying like it's not
because it's not strictly
the risk reward is not.
Yeah, no, but the FDA can still go against you for stuff that's not controlled. Right. The FDA has tons of little things they can bag you on. Like having
for anything or no.
Yep. That's why I can tell you. I can tell you from experience. The FDA, they have if you have, I don't know, they can go after you. Say you have too much vitamin C in your fucking house. They have literally a statute for everything.
Oh,
and if they want to do something, they will.
Vitamin C.
They have statutes. They have statutes for everything.
Leo, you'd be screwed.
I have too many supplements. Nothing illegal, just supplements. But I have too many of them. Yeah. It could look like I'm dealing supplements. Now, what about coaches that, for example, sometimes coaches, their clients will ask them, they don't know where do I get something from. Now, can these FDA or FBI or these people come and make a coach liable even if he doesn't make any money? He just said, I got something from somewhere. Is that You know what I mean?
It hasn't happened yet. I'm curious to see if it ever will, because I actually talked to Nick about this before. What's that lab that's going around like Instagram and shit?
Oh,
well,
LWP.
yeah, like that. You know, they have like pro athletes they sponsor and they send them to shows and shit. You know, and then I got a message from them one day, and they're like, they had all these people that are like, oh, they're representatives for us, and one of them was my friend.
Yeah.
And I messaged him like, yo, you're gonna be sleeping in the cell next to me at some point or what? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, that's conspiracy, you know.
Right.
It's so, but again, it's one of those things where are they gonna do it? I don't know. You know, because I know who was involved with that lab before. They were out from cooperating, you know, and they just kept selling, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But so I don't like, there could be like, if someone got hurt, could they trace it back and do something? Yeah, probably. They can do whatever they want. You know, the federal government, I don't know if you're paying attention to a lot of the stuff now in the United States, but they literally can do whatever they want. So could someone potentially get in trouble? Yeah, I do know coaches I won't text or even email anything to do with.
Yes, I know a lot of people like that.
With anabolics, they'll make them call or something like that.
Interesting.
So
there are a few.
There's also Dragon Pharma. That's like, is that a lab, or they sponsor Rami, Big Rami?
No, they have
I think it's a supplement store now, right? It used to be a steroid lab, but I think it's a supplement store.
Yeah, they're from the Middle East though, but it is a supplement company. But it's almost the same logo as the steroid company.
Yes, there was a steroid company in the Middle East called Dragon Pharma.
That was
and the company is from the Middle East too, though. It's really weird. The whole thing is like the same representative of the company. So,
all right, guys, let's talk about the pink elephant in the room, GH15. So Bob, what's your story with GH15? Because I've been arguing with the current GH15, who's not even the 3-year-old GH15, and this guy is sending me long emails. I tell him, dude, I'm not reading your goddamn emails. You tell me your story first.
I mean, the original one.
By the way, we done something about the original one also recently, Nick and I.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we talked to. This could have broken like 2012's internet. We talked to Chad Nichols, and we asked him directly, did Nasser ever mention, do you know if Nasser was GH15? And he said, Nasser said he was feeding a couple of guys information and they were posting it on Get Big as GH15. So finally we know there's some connection.
Yeah.
Because Nick and I talked about a while back that one of my close friends who was like not an administrator, but a moderator or whatnot.
Jason Blaha?
Who originally came over to the GH15 board when we all left to Get Big. You know, he had emails from him saying, it was Nasser. This guy, it's not even the same way he talks or even acts. This guy's just an asshole. That's what it is. It's not, there's never any more information that's brought forward, he just feeds off of everyone else's information. Someone will make a post and be like, oh yeah, see, that's how you do it. And it's like, he's never provided a cycle, he doesn't, and I said, I knew people that personally that were on his board as labs.
Like sponsors, you mean?
Yep. And they were always like, basically like forced to send him stuff, and they were forced to donate the boards, and the fees to pay there were just like insane. The last guy I know that he had reached out to me because he knew I had been around that scene for a little while was like a Juice Pal, because GH15 had said, all right, you're making too much money and the other guys aren't getting anything, because Juice Pal is kind of like I was. He's legit and it's going to put out a quality product and it sells itself from there. He did that. And then all the other sponsors started complaining because no one else is going to them. So he said, okay, well, Now you have to pay like $10,000 a month. So he's like, all right, look,
what's the normal rate on there? A couple thousand?
I think it was $1,200 a month. Plus you had to send free stuff, and it ended up being a lot. Like I would never go on there. That's ridiculous.
Not anymore. Now he's actually asking for a percentage of revenue.
Is he really?
That's because he's in hiding.
Yeah, confirmed by a lab listed recently on GH15 that spoke to me directly in the last 3 days. Yeah. He was asking, this current GH15 was asking percentage of revenue from the website. Sorry, I interrupted you.
That's insane.
Because the last information I had is when, what's the lab's name? Strango got busted, because that's how my buddy was kind of forced out, because he was somehow in business or whatnot with Strango. And when Strango got busted, he just went MIA for like a couple months. And then everyone on the board didn't know what to do and this and that. And then one day he just appears and he's like, oh, you guys are assholes talking about me, this and that. You know, I was just taking a step away from the board. And everyone's like, no, like you're hiding because you were involved with Strango. He 100% was. And I'd be curious to see what Strango says. What's his name, David or something. He's still locked up. I'd be curious to see if he says anything about it, if anyone can get in touch with him. He's still in federal prison.
So who do you think is running GH15 now? Like, how is that possible? This thing gets passed around all over the place. It's so weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Juice Pal had sent me some stuff of people he had to send money to in Serbia. So we knew he was in Serbia at the time, hiding out. And he probably still is. That's probably why he's wanting payments and whatnot. And anyone that goes to GH15 or I'd say just go to another board. There's so many other boards. You can make so much more money than not having to go through all that ridiculous ass shit.
You think it's smart for research companies to go on those?
I mean, maybe if you don't have any clients, but you can just go to Pro Muscle. It's $1,000 a month.
Yeah, but you think it makes any sense to advertise on those things? I always thought about it.
On GH15?
On any of them. You think there's a market there still? Like, I feel like it's
for research.
Like, let's say if I wanted to put a SARM company on there, if they would let me, do you think it's worth it or no?
No. For you, I mean, everyone already knows who you are, you know. So maybe if someone didn't have a following or whatnot, and they're just trying to get their name out there. Maybe, but does anyone go on GH15 anymore?
I don't know.
No, it's dead. No, it's dead. He's made several posts about me, and that it's dead. The form's dead.
Like, I mean, when I was there, when all this went over from Get Big, I mean, it was like the forum, like the best. It's still the best forum there ever was, you know, in the beginning. And then, you know, because you had all these people, like, it was knowledgeable. I mean, even Nick was on there, and he didn't even know it.
Yeah, I had fuck, Leo, did I ever tell you that story? No. I had an impersonator for like 7 years. I almost got killed over it.
How? Wait, what's the story?
Should I tell the whole thing? It's on a short. I can tell you the short version. I'll tell a long version one other time. But so long story short, this is kind of how me and I became friends a little bit. It was. Yep. I just fucked up.
That is mad funny.
Oh my god.
No. I had to.
So basically, there was like a 7-year period in my life, probably actually even longer. I had an impersonator on the boards, and it was my real picture. I think it was my name. I forgot what he used for an avatar name, and I would get sent. This is when MySpace was popular, mind you. Like, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have all this shit. So I would just get a glimpse of it from like either someone emailed it to me, like, "Hey, bro, someone's on the forum saying they're you and they're doing this and that." I would just ignore it. This went on for years until I think I turned pro. I think that was the year it happened. I think it was the year I turned pro, or maybe the year after. I got this phone call from this random person. He's like, "I gotta talk to you." And I go, "Who the fuck are you?" He's like, "I need to talk to you. You owe me a lot of money." And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So I'm like, I thought someone was fucking with me. So I called this number on the phone with this guy for a half hour. He's telling me about all the things I owe him money for, how he sent me this, he sent me that. I never paid him for this. And I let him talk. I just wanted to hear him talk. He was livid, mind you. He was pissed. So I said to him, I said, why do you think that's me? He's like, well, who else would it be? I said, have you proved have you proved that that's me on that profile? I was like, my profile is called Nicholas Trigg. Like, it's not whatever the other person is you're talking to. He's like, prove it. So I logged into my thing. I showed him my profile. I was like, ask that person for an ID. I was like, I'll send you my ID right now. I'll send you a picture of myself, whatever you want. I'm like, prove to me that the ID is mine. He's like, I actually have their IP address. He goes, show me your IP address. I said, no problem. I'll show you my IP address. Showed him my IP to my phone, my computer, everything at the time. He's like, damn. He's like, so who is this person? I said, I have no idea. So we actually traced the IP. I hired someone. I traced the IP. The kid ended up living 15 minutes from me in Franklin Lakes, which is like 15 minutes from my house right now. And we found out who it is. It was like this fat little like Israeli kid. And he was probably 22, 23. So since he was like a teenager, he was trolling the entire internet with this profile. But he kept it so good, though. He was posting everything as I posted it, like each day. I went back and saw his post. Like, he was on top of it as if, like, I was really doing it. Like everything. Like, everything I would post, he would reiterate on there.
Maybe it was like
because
kind of like.
Oh, 100%.
Back then, because we didn't have social media, so there's no way to, like, talk with Nick.
It was
or whatnot.
MySpace
so,
and
like,
stuff. Yeah.
Nick for a couple of years was like, he'd be going for his pro card, then he'd like fuck up his arm or this or that. So, everyone's just like, oh, here comes Nick again, right? So here he comes. So everyone's like, that's when bodybuilding was still like, I don't know, bodybuilding. Yeah. But everyone's like, oh, here comes Nick. So we'd post like a picture. I don't know where we would get it from, wherever Nick either sent it or whatnot. But my favorite one was he put the cycle on GH15 once, and it was nationals before you were going pro, and it was 7 meals of all McDonald's, and it was like 32 units of like Humatrope and insulin, and GH15 was like, yeah, see, that's how you do it. It was like 2 quarter pounders, like 2 chicken sandwiches.
I think the poster's still up. I'll find them for you.
And I remember being like, this is what they're fucking doing? I'm like, there's no fucking way. I'm like, and I'll never forget that GH15. Yeah, that's how you fucking do it. And so I'm sure there were people getting Humalog, taking fucking McDonald's and fucking Humatrope or whatnot.
That was nuts, though.
I'll never forget that.
That story was nuts, though.
It was an outlaw muscle, too. Everyone was sending him free shit because they thought it was
so Leo, so he was getting thousands upon thousands of gear every month from all these sponsors because they thought they were sponsoring like this bodybuilder.
Did he lift weights? You said he was a fat guy.
No, he was a fat little. He did not lift. He probably was selling it 100%. Because he's from Franklin Lakes, which is a fucking rich as hell town in New Jersey. If you look it up, it's where all the housewives live. So this kid was literally in his mansion trolling people.
Worst part was he was a Marine.
Yeah, he was actually a Marine. Yeah, he was a Marine. Yeah.
Marine?
Terrible.
What a creepy person.
Bro, it was a creepy thing. It was very creepy.
It was weird.
Like, he had photos of me that I never even posted. And I'm like, how did he get these? Like, at the time, I didn't have anything out there. There was no social media. It was either on a forum I post something or on my MySpace.
So the important thing for the audience to realize that the ones that weren't or they're younger than us, everybody who knew anything about steroids online was on GH15 at some point in the beginning. When we first started, they were invited when it was private only. I was one of those people. A lot of people were invited. I didn't post much. But I read all of GH15's posts on Get Big, every single post. And I read every single post for the first year or so on GH15.org. And I'm not an idiot. And I pay attention to writing styles. And I know what you can fake intentionally and what you can't fake. And I can see changes and I can see when he contradicts himself. And what I noticed was there's a lot more contradictions happened about like 6 months before he left Get Big, and then like 6 months after he started GH15, or no, when it went public. When it went public, GH15. I think the guys changed a few times. I think number one, there was not one guy originally.
No.
It was originally like a couple of guys, and they had some things that they were saying which were never said before, like Trenbolone. Like if you use a lot of Trenbolone, or if you take a GH to 10 units, or sometimes you'll look better for the short term, right? So there were some things useful, and they were claiming to tell the truth. So everybody was like, "Oh shit, this is the truth." And he would post on Get Big things like, "I just shot 6 cc's of I don't know what. I'm an addict. I love it." And people would go crazy. So this environment developed on the internet, which many people don't know about, the younger generation now. With before Rich Piana, where many of us were reading this and we're getting excited, and I wasn't shooting 6 cc's, but there were people, I'm sure, doing that.
I was shooting 9.
Yeah, that's how you got the scar tissue. So the point is, I was shooting 6, but I don't want places. Is what I meant. Anyway, so he changed the internet actually, and he changed bodybuilding. And I think that he was the single worst influence on the public's health in bodybuilding. Because what happened was people who weren't supposed to think about this stuff started thinking about it. People that didn't have any genetics, that couldn't do anything. They thought, if I keep raising the dose, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And people start dying. In the 20s, Z's died, Derek Anthony died, random people. Everybody died.
Oh, man, Z's, holy shit.
Remember Z's? That was G's.
Throwback.
He was on Tren all the time, partying. He thought, I'm on all Tren. I'm taking 100 milligrams a day. GH15 used to take up to 300. The real pros take 300 milligrams a day.
Fuck, man. I forgot about that kid. That was fucked up. Ziz. That's what they call him.
Yes.
Ziz.
Yep,
Ziz.
it's Ziz.
Whatever.
Yep.
Oh, my God. He was like the
The aesthetic god or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, aesthetic. He was like skinny with no muscle, but
yeah. Like to me, that's like a Tren and Clen diet with no carbs. He was just shredded with
that was
no
like
muscle.
I was born with.
Yeah.
But what he was doing basically was, for him, he was like a little nerdy kid in school, didn't get much attention.
Yeah.
But I think on GH15 specifically, his stuff, saw the Tren stuff. Because if you see him, he's all shoulders. He's just shoulders and that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So he was just taking a lot of Tren and going partying, doing cocaine. Doesn't know that Tren is an adrenergic agonist. You're getting a lot of adrenaline. He may be on Clen also, doesn't know what he's doing. And he may have a little bit of a weak heart, and he took coke and he died. And then a bunch of other people started. Now, I'm not personally blaming GH15 for this. I mean, everyone has their own, responsibility. If I go and shoot heroin tonight and I die, it's my fault. It's not because I saw a heroin addict on the street doing it. But this wasn't done because they were trying to tell the truth. This was done to make money. GH15 was done eventually to make money. By the time it started the board, it was purely to make money. It was to have the sponsors and to make money. So I don't know if Nasser died and then his friends in Serbia continued with his stuff to make money on their own in 2011. I don't know what the dates were exactly, but basically they turned into a business. And right now the guy on the forum, just to update you, Bob, on what happened, Chad Nichols said basically that Nasser, all this stuff. And apparently this guy who's heading the forum right now saw it, made a bunch of posts about me, calling me a kid, and I don't know what.
So hold on. So real quick, what originally happened? He sent you an email after our show, and
what happened was a guy on Instagram sent me a copy paste from his message to me. He made a thread about me on GH15. I don't go
because of the podcast.
Yeah, saying that we're liars, and specifically what he would do is this. From the first post, he said, "We are liars. We do not know the truth." He has agreed to either come on my channel or Palumbo's channel, one or the other, for a pay-per-view, $1 per person.
Oh my God.
I swear to God, I'm not making this up.
What?
I'm not making this up, man.
$1?
I swear to God. So,
he doesn't even ask for 10. He asks for $1.
$1 per person. I'm not done. It gets worse, bro. It gets worse. So that's the first post, and he says $1 per person, pay-per-view, but this dollar has to go to the dog shelter. So I was like, wait.
All right, I'll put up 1,000 right now.
He has houses for the dog shelters. Everybody knows about that. He's always saying donate to dog shelters. He's always stealing the money. Everybody knows about this.
I know.
Inside, everybody on the internet knows about this. He thought I didn't read his post. He thought I haven't been since 2008. He thought I'm a skinny guy that was never into any of this guy. I know everything about this fucking idiot. So, sorry, I shouldn't swear. He's going to get Anyway, so this guy, so what happened was this. At the end, he says, if anyone can get in touch with Leo, get in touch with him and get back to me. So this guy said,
God.
I didn't
So what, he's gonna show his face for $1 per person.
That's what I just said.
And he's gonna tell the whole story.
I'll pay the $1,000 right now. I got it in the other room, and you can come on and explain why all this money's missing and why you ban people. That's fine. You're gonna get paid after the fact, though. I'm not sending it. Not that dumb.
Exactly. So that's what happened. So his first post was this. So I didn't respond to it. Then I received apparently made another post about me. So then this time the guy was like, he was an Arab guy, the guy that sent me the message from GH15. And he said, here's his email if you want. So I emailed him. I said literally one line, what do you want? And he responded back. I swear to God, it's a page. The original GH15 would never write this. This is like a freaking essay.
Just rambling.
Rambling. I don't know. You're a kid. You don't know. To know the truth. I couldn't read the whole thing. Once I saw kid, I said, fuck. So I skipped down. I replied back. I said, hey, I didn't read your email. Write a shorter email. He sent back another email. Again, long. I said, I'm not going to read long emails. And I saw another insult with this kid thing. I told him, if you insult again, the offer's off. So he replies again. I told him, listen, by the way, all this time I was in contact with Dave Palumbo. I called Dave, or messaged Dave. I told Dave, listen, this guy isn't really GH15, but he's the guy pretending to be. And GH15 harmed a lot of us, including myself, a little bit, because they lied. I'll give examples later. So they harmed all of us. So let's bring him on so we can show that he isn't the guy. Well, I'll ask questions. I've read all his posts. I know everything, and I know he doesn't know his old posts. This isn't the same guy. And he didn't read them. He's so lazy. So Palumbo was like, okay, but this pay-per-view thing, obviously, no. I said, of course not. He's not going to give it a dog shelter. So we'll refuse that, but he has to accept. The guy refused. He said, if there's no pay-per-view, I'm not coming. So
all right, I'll pay it. That's fine.
Literally trying to make money from the interview and not show up, I guess. I mean,
yeah. Well, he'll get paid when he shows up. I'll pay it, though.
Tell him I'll pay him.
No. Yeah. The point is, look, I used to read GH15 stuff. Look, the guy on the
what a weirdo, though. That's fucking weird, man. That's weird.
No, the GH.
That's why I can't believe anyone even goes to that board. It's like, at this day and age, you got nothing to hide. Hence the guy wearing a mask and glasses right now. Mine's for a different reason. I will be unmasking myself eventually. I just can't.
That's so fucking funny what you just said.
I know. I can't for legal reasons.
You know what you look like? I just realized. I watched a show called Drugs Inc. all the time.
Yeah. That's where I got the idea.
I was just literally watching it before we came on here. It was a good episode about Molly. It's like, it looked just like that.
Yep.
But they were all the funny masks too.
I will show myself eventually. I just can't legally right now due to a contract.
Yeah.
But
so you're saying there's no reason for anyone to go there. I know that for sure. And by the way, anyone listening to this, forget about that website. That's a scammer. Even the sources there have left. They've contacted me. They told me he's taking percentage of the revenue. He's not the original guy. It's confirmed. We have many confirmations. Tyen Clark has been on my channel. He used to be a moderator at GH15. He said that he's almost completely sure the guy's selling or something. He's not the original guy. I've read all the posts. There were two contradictory, man. He goes to gh15.org. And within a year, he starts saying that insulin is not good. He didn't use insulin. He didn't like insulin. And then, like 6 months later, he says you should drink pineapple juice and take insulin all day. Like that's pineapple juice, insulin. Which actually, by the way, would work. It'll make you blow up because that's sugar and insulin.
All day,
You'd get fat. You'd get huge. It's true, but
I used to do it.
Yeah, that's true. And pineapple juice is very high in fructose, probably not the best one. You want something with glucose.
Glucose.
Also. So, but the problem is this: he was doing this 300 milligram Tren thing, and basically, I think that's what changed, like the fringe element of bodybuilding, like the element that's not the pros, but the people that are on YouTube and stuff like that, where people started taking higher and higher doses, and now you're about people, suffering and people have died and so on.
Well, I agree because he was supposedly the truth behind bodybuilding. That's why everyone GH15, hence the magic dose was 15 units. That's where you had everyone coming in being like, even we'll say Boston Lloyd, for example. He said no, he's taken more gear than anyone, and he said no, it's not going to happen. So I do agree to some sense that he came in because everyone's like, oh man, it's, some pro bodybuilder. And, the select few of us are like, oh, it was Nasser. And that's why I left years and years ago, probably like 2013, because I was like, this is ridiculous, because it started banning all the decent people that had any knowledge, and then a bunch of us left and went to another forum that was private, that one of the other guys from there had created, because it was just, we just wanted some place to go and bullshit. And, but now everything, you have social media, so I think the forums are kind of
it's over. But it's important for us to know, for us who went through it, who were on the board. I like you, I left on 2012 or 13, I don't know what, early, but everyone can see the GH15 Bible online. That's the selected post from the original fake Nasser, who Nasser was talking to, with, again, BS sort of contradictory, slightly information. He would always say equipoise makes your shoulders round, Trenbolone, the higher the better. Testosterone, sometimes he would say double the dose of Trenbolone, sometimes he would say equal, sometimes he would say lower. He would contradict himself even on Get Big. It was never straightforward. It was always this kind of scammy kind of, and to be honest, now that I know about now that Chad told us about Nasser's bodybuilding.com articles that were not released, that were intended to cause drama, I started thinking maybe he was actually just jaded and bitter and wanted to mess with people. And that's why he did it.
I believe it. I believe that 100%.
I'll tell you why. Last night I was talking to a guy in San Diego late at night who was a good friend of Art Atwood. That's why I posted those pictures of Art Atwood.
Oh, okay.
He was also the guy that saw Nasser punch a guy in the face for being a pedophile in the gym. And he told me, so he told me, it's because, remember I asked Chad, was his blood okay? Did he know he was unhealthy at the end? And Chad said he didn't think so. But I asked this guy who was seeing him toward the end, and he said Nasser's face was like blue. It was changing color. And there's he didn't know. The blood was not pumping.
Oh.
And I've seen people like that because I used to be in arm wrestling. On the day of competition, people take a lot of Anadrol, and your heart won't work properly. You turn blue.
Oh,
and we know a guy that has a podcast. His face keeps changing color. Now he keeps turning it brighter and brighter until you can't see his skin color anymore. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
The skin color change could be a sign of the heart. I
never knew it turned blue.
No, you'll turn, like, your face will not.
The blood. Yeah, the blood. Yeah.
So he said probably Nasser knew, and he did go back to die. That guy said he went back to die. He said,
was Nasser taking? Was he taking the blood thickeners? What is it?
Who knows? Never know.
What's the stuff, Nick? You were taking it for a while. What's that? The thickener? What's it called again? I'm having a brain fart.
Erythropoietin.
Yeah, EPO. Was he using that? Did Chad say anything about that? If he was using it?
I don't like Chad used that I know of.
Well, whether Chad did or not, I don't know because I know.
Oh, you're saying like on his own. You're saying on his own.
Yeah.
I didn't get from my experiment with it, I didn't notice much difference in it. As from a bodybuilder standpoint, to be using it, the risk, especially the risk reward, was not.
I used it years ago and I got gyno off of it.
What?
Yeah.
I've not been erythro. Well, actually, it could happen.
It was farm grade.
Erythropoietin works through something called the JAK/STAT pathway in the growth of the body. Growth hormone is upstream to the JAK/STAT, but so is erythropoietin. Now, I'm going to do an episode on Dave's show about erythropoietin-related molecules. I have a very long blog post on my website, if you'd like to check it out, audience, about erythropoietin-related molecules. But if you guys are business people that went and made the bath mate when we came up with water pumping on Thunder's Place, if you guys try to steal this idea, everyone will know I came up with it first, so don't do it. But erythropoietin, this is the interesting thing. If you take a peptide from EPO, you can remove the hematopoietic effect, the blood thickening, and keep the growth effect. And nobody knows about this in bodybuilding. This is one of the future things. So I want to talk about peptides. This is a peptide nobody's done. I came across in the literature. I'm like, you know how Dan Duchesne used to find stuff? We bring it in. Nobody's brought this in yet. It will access the growth pathway, just like, for example, TB500, BPC, all that stuff, but in a different way and very direct. And not only that, it's very interesting for the brain, which is why I'm interested in personally, for nanoparticles to get it into the the problem with that, the JAK/STAT pathway is also involved in cancerous growth. So in general, if you're taking growth hormone, IGF-1, whatever, and you have the Brca genes, BRCA, you're more likely to get cancer. Let's talk quickly about Aaron Singerman. Should we talk about it here or in our separate podcast?
Whatever you want to do.
Later?
Whatever. I don't care.
I just thought we could bring it up because I saw this. I went to his account and I saw this stream that was about Dallas. I felt like it was in response to what you said about Dallas.
Yeah, so it was weird to see that on his story. So, I mean, actually, PJ told me that he actually was talking about me yesterday too. So I don't know what he's on his high horse about because, I mean, if I recall, I don't have the best memory, but did I say anything bad about him besides what I said? I just disliked him because of the Dallas thing, right? That's basically what I said.
Respectful, and it was extremely respectful, and it was honest. It seemed genuine.
And I said I liked him until the whole Dallas thing, and like he even said today in his story, we were thinking about bringing Nick on as an athlete. He's like, until supposedly Dallas told him not to. That's basically what he said in today's story. He's like, we were going to sign Nick actually, and then like his little friend there, whatever his name is, the kid that plays with him all day at work, his little butt buddy. I don't know his name. He's like, we Dallas said not to bring Nick on, and I'm like, wow, oh, you guys are really reaching right now for lies because that's if Dallas said it to you, it was probably like, don't bring Nick on, like a joke. Dallas would never say a bad thing about me because I had that kid's back since he was literally like literally a teenager. I helped him with his first bodybuilding show, and so did John O'Regan, which was a coach, a big coach over here for like everyone when they're first coaching. It's like their first coach to go to. And I walked him through his first bodybuilding show. I walked him into his pro card. We did the same show when he turned pro. I was with his mom. Like I know the entire family. I've seen exactly. I seen this kid literally grow up in front of my eyes. And I saw the transformation the kid made in a bad way when he went and changed his life with Redcon 1. I saw the difference in the kid in a lot of different ways, physically and mentally. And it was just a really sad thing to see. And then when they went for that money grab, that was what bothered me, you know. And Aaron even admitted. So the best part is the kicker to this whole conversation is that Aaron said today on his little walking story time that he's like, oh yeah, and I did, Nick's right, I did screw up I put the fund in my name. And I did open a bank account in my name. Mind you, Leo, that's the whole reason I was mad.
That's all you said.
Yeah, and I literally said it to you.
It was not nice. You just said it should.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate that because that was what I had the whole argument about when it did happen. I'm like, why are you guys making T-shirts and why is everything in Aaron's name? If you wanted to set that up correctly, there was no rush to do that overnight to make T-shirts for Dallas and open a fund, you know, for his family or whatever to make money. There was no rush. That could have waited a week, 2 weeks. The money was going to be there regardless if he has fans. So he said, I was in a rush to do it. Why were you in a rush?
Well, let me add a couple of caveats here. Number one, I don't know enough about the situation to agree or disagree with your opinion, but I do want to say something about you. We talk every day now. You're my buddy. I know your personality a little bit. Nick is, for the audience that don't know, he is actually an emotional person, sensitive person. He does care about his friends, and this could be very, very much exactly how he feels because the guy died, and maybe this rubbed you the wrong way, and you didn't attack Aaron in any kind of way. But let me instead not attack Aaron, but like establish something because his response, which I didn't listen to all of it. Again, I don't have time for these freaking long things. I don't know why people do this. But the point, sending GH15, sending 15 emails. Man, the last, I have 3 emails from him. I didn't even open them. I just blocked spam. I don't know what this. Anyway, this guy took a walk around his block 15 times. I don't know how he's doing this.
It was an hour long.
He thinks he's done everything. You don't need to exercise that much. But by the way, why is this guy's jaw moving left and right like he's a meth addict? Did you notice that?
Which one?
Aaron Singerman.
He was an ex-heroin addict, so who knows? You know, which I respect too, because like the guy turned his life into something, and the fact that and the fact that he even brought up that he's like, oh, Nick, he was the reason Dallas didn't want to hang out with me because I partied too much.
No, wait. Let's get into the reality of the situation. If you, from what I understood from speaking to you last time, I thought that Aaron Singerman was an heir to a fortune, like Steve Blackman. He is or
no? No.
So you told me he wasn't. I was so surprised because I saw that this guy has Ferraris, and I heard that he used to be a drug addict. And you know how I feel about super life. I'm very into that. I was like, damn, this guy, lifted him up by himself. And so you changed my impression of him. Last time I spoke to you, I left thinking, wow, this guy is a really cool guy. Actually, I just wasn't happy about the Dallas shirt thing. But I was
of course.
more impressed. So you weren't being negative about the guy. You were saying something honest, and you're allowed to.
Yeah.
For God's sake, if people are putting stuff on YouTube and we are on YouTube, we're allowed to comment on it.
Yeah.
Now, however, if you are making a Ferrari or Lamborghini from a supplement company, okay, that means you're getting rich a little bit, or at least you're rich enough to have as much fun as you want. You're buying things you don't need, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, let's say maybe you could invest a little bit in your athletes. Maybe what you could do, for example, you could have not blood tests because those don't work. You could have a heart cardiac fMRI once every 3 years, mandatory. First of all athletes should have insurance, health insurance.
Yeah.
Then they should have a mandatory every 3 years cardiac fMRI, so you can see if there's a huge blockage, he's about to die, for God's sake.
Yep.
Then you can have also, if you really want to, if Aaron really, really cares, mandatory liver and kidney ultrasound at least. That's cheaper than fMRI. He can do that every year. There's no problem.
Yep.
And then you can have mandatory blood tests for the actual bodybuilders, for the big ones.
Yep.
But this never has to happen again. No one ever has to die with red con again. Which has happened twice, by the way. I'm not blaming Aaron, but it's happened twice. So let's be a little bit more careful next time where we put the money instead of the Ferrari. Maybe you mandatorily require everybody gets insurance. I'm sorry, I'm not politically correct because I'm not associated with the supplement industry. So I'm just telling the truth of what I think.
It's absolutely true.
Maybe you have the scans done because these guys don't care about their own health, but it reflects.
He should have never died, period. That's the thing. Not under all those different people that supposedly were in his corner. Matt Jensen, Aaron Singerman, Redcon 1, whoever else was training him at the time. Chatty was ripping on him to go get blood work and stay healthy, ignored it, but all these people were supposed to be his friends. No one caught what it was happening to him, especially after we saw the blood work and saw the true health report of that kid. All that stuff could have been avoided.
Bro,
Everything.
This is what I'm trying to get at. I didn't mention one thing, the genetic testing. Simple, Aaron, if you're listening to this, listen and learn, okay? ApoE4, check all your athletes, ApoE4. Check all your athletes if they have the Brca genes, BRCA. Yeah, you can write that down. Those genes very associated with cancer, very associated with atherosclerosis. If anyone has ApoE4, should not be on steroids, period. Get off. Yeah. The plaque will build too fast. Look what happened to Dallas McCarver. 26 years old, severe atherosclerosis, severe blockages. You don't see that except in 70-year-olds. That's not normal. That's a genetic predisposition. You have 23andMe, Aaron Singerman. You're rich. You have a Ferrari. Go take care of your athletes before you go defend yourself and all that kind of stuff. All right, sorry guys. I got all right, so Bob,
I'll be the devil's advocate. I'll be the devil's advocate on that, on why they don't, because then they're liable.
You think so?
Why would they be liable?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, they're what do you call them?
Independent contractors or something.
Independent contractors, because I mean, I've even talked to you about this, Nick, and I've talked to another Mr. Olympia winner about if they want to fix that, you got to unionize the IFBB, which people won't even bring up because it gets shut down immediately.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you go to the NFL or the NBA or anything like that, like all that's taken care of through the union. But, if guys actually stuck to it, got a union and whatnot, versus people in the industry, threatening or, not wanting to go forward because they want better placings or whatnot. Because, I mean, it happened like years ago, even Lee Priest. Had talked about unionizing, because that's how you get into that, of the mandatory testing and athletes getting paid and treated respectfully and whatnot. But
like a professional
as an independent contractor, they're like, fuck you, go home, get your shit, do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And then they collect the check.
The only way, in Dallas' situation is unique because Aaron moved him there. Aaron bought his apartment. Aaron furnished his apartment. Aaron bought him a car. Aaron treated him like he was literally like royalty, like it was his son. And Aaron says in videos, plenty of them, Dallas was like my kid. So if he wanted to, he could have been like, Dallas, here's the money for your insurance for the year. I'll pay for it. Like just done an outside Redcon 1. You know what I'm saying? Personally, and took care of the kid if he wanted to. But he's willing to buy an apartment and a car and everything else for the kid and make him feel like he's special. Make sure his health's good, Wait,
I want to respond to that. First of all, there is no liability issue. I don't know how you're thinking of that legally. Because all it is this. For a contract, if you want to work as an independent contractor of our place, you have to be approved by a doctor that your liver, heart, and kidneys are in good condition. If not, not allowed to work for us because you're not a healthy person. You do not represent our brand. Period.
That's true. Well, what about if they were
liability?
Then guys aren't going to be able to compete.
No, they will be able to compete because all you have to show is there's no blockages. It takes years for that to develop.
What about if they were a full-time employee though? Don't they get covered then? Why can't they be?
There's no excuse for this. Basically, it's up to him. He could have not.
You know who would be a good one to ask about this is what's his face from New York, the attorney there. What's his face?
Collins.
Rick Collins.
Yeah, Rick Collins. Yep. He'd be a good one to ask about that.
It's not about legality. It's something and
integrity.
You can even just tell the guy, hey, listen, if you don't do the test,
goodbye.
I remember a friend of mine when he was in prep. He was on. He did shows literally all year, and I'm like, dude, take it off. Go get some blood work. And he's just like, no, I don't. Because his sponsor was telling me he had to do X amount of shows and whatnot, and because he had told me he didn't want to do it was the Pittsburgh Pro. He's like, I got to take some time off, and and they're like, no, So in that aspect, there might be some liability issues, but. When you have contracts and you're expected to do shit, I
think what it comes down to
it's kind of a weird area.
I think what it comes down to with these company owners, they just don't give a shit. Honestly,
it's
business.
This is not true. There's no liability here because from my understanding, logically, all you're doing is you're requiring someone to do something and get an okay. It's not your business what they do, how their health is, as long as you get that okay. What I'm trying to say is this. It's not that Aaron Singerman wanted a Ferrari, so he decided not to check Dallas's.
Right. No, we didn't get that.
I didn't mean that. What I meant was, if he checks it and it turns out Dallas is not healthy, he's got to drop him.
Yep.
That's the problem. That's why you might not want to do it. Because you don't want to screw up your
business.
You don't want to say this guy's not healthy, he has to go off, or I have to pay him and he doesn't compete, or something like that. You don't want to take that.
That's a liability.
That's the liability. It's not a legal liability. You can force any employee to do health checkups, especially as an athlete.
Especially if I think I was an independent contractor first with Muscle Meds because I wasn't making any money, and then once I became a full-time athlete with them. Then I actually was offered health insurance from Gerard at the time. And I was a 21-year-old kid. So Gerard actually offered it me because I was actually an employee of them. I wasn't just an athlete anymore, but at the time I actually had health insurance. I don't have to worry about it, but they offered me a discount and stuff and with the business. So.
You don't have to offer insurance. You can just pay for the test cash.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The guy, Aaron, could have been like, we need to get this checked. But just stay on top of him. Why?
Honestly, you know what I'm really saying, Nick? It's just Dallas. Look how big he was. You don't have to do it for everyone. Just the one guy, Nick Walker. Do it for him. Do it for Hunter Labrada. Do it for those guys that are growing really fast.
Yeah.
Just do it for those guys, just to make sure that they don't have some weird gene or something save a life because you should care. You know what I mean?
It's all prevented. It can all be prevented. So.
Hey, Bob, we have to.
Do you think? Oh, okay.
Oh no! Please tell me.
No, I was gonna just asking. Do you think that all this, the growth rate and these guys being young, coming up that big, is in direct correlation with wanting contracts versus like someone like Nick, who was given a contract before he went pro? Because back then, even like guys, let's talk about like Craig Titus and whatnot. He had a $100,000 contract even before getting a pro card.
Yeah.
So these guys, versus now, like you kind of got to go on social media and make your own.
Yeah. You gotta make it's like you gotta you gotta create your own image, you gotta create your own following, you gotta create it's nothing's handed to you anymore. Like I said, it was so easy before to be a bodybuilder. It really was. Like all I had to do was bodybuild. I had to worry about posting and videos and building this personality. Like that's why Cedric McMillan is like still stuck in the old age. Like he's like, I don't know what to do. Like he's got this injury. He's like trying to rehab, and they're like, oh, you got to share it and document it. He's like, I don't want to do that. Like I just want to recover and go work out. But like Redcon, Aaron's got Cedric too, and he's like pushing him to do content, which is great. From Aaron's point of view, I get why he wants to do it, but Cedric's just like, I just want to work out. He's like, this shit was so much easier back then. Like, why is it so hard? And like, really, when you think about it, NFL players don't have to do that. Like, you don't know NFL players on Instagram, most of them. Like, there's some obviously because they're just they're outcasts and they like to be flamboyant and be online and be all crazy and shit. But they're not responsible for being popular. You know, look at Callum Valmoger. Look at that guy turning pro. Like that was a joke and a half when that kid turned pro. Like, and I'm not even trying to say from a personal standpoint, like that kid does not have any muscle on his body. Come on. Like,
I genuinely almost had as much muscle as him. It's ridiculous. I
think you and me have more now. We don't even work out.
He has no back at all.
Nothing.
Yeah.
His legs were not even there. It was like he had like baby cellulite on his ass.
Like they amputated his back. Yeah.
It doesn't even look like like someone that lifts weights. It has no muscular structure to it at all. It's literally there's no muscle back there.
So basically what you're saying is there's so much pressure on people to look good on a daily basis that they're tempted to go for Tren, Clen, GH all the time, stay ripped, and that's how they build their fame. But that's the least.
Like now you're not going to get a check unless you're winning now, and so
you have to
you're
win,
not winning. Yeah, you basically, so you got to, because before, like guys, when you made Olympia, you ate shit for a few years and kind of worked your way up. And now it's like, if you're last Olympia, no one gives a shit about you. You got to be the next hype. And I think that's why, like, even like Hunter Labrada, like the kid's massive. And it's like, I'm like, oh man, here we go again.
I know. We were just talking about it the other day.
I've been looking at
but it's like, do I blame them? Because that's their job and they're not going to make money unless they
it's a tough rough.
Unless they,
it's a tough life.
Unless they do something to make them stand out from something else.
We were just saying we were just talking about how he's mutated into like a myostatin cow, pretty much.
With mutation, right?
Yeah.
I would say that's at 15 IU or 30 IU actually.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And by the way, just for the audience to know, if you ever want to try 30 IU and you have enough money from pharmaceuticals, you will maybe kill yourself because I've tried it. And what ends up happening, you blow up with water so fast, your heart starts failing. You can feel it. Something's wrong. You go out, you go back home, you get anxious. That doesn't work unless you take a diuretic the whole year. And nobody does anyway. Nobody does 30. That's ridiculous.
I tried going up by 10 IUs a day after my show one time. Did I tell you this story? I don't think I told you this story either. So Fakri, I should have told the story with Fakri on the phone on the video because he actually experienced it with me. So Junior Nationals 2011 or 10, I think it was. I was 235 on stage, right? I just took 6th place. And Fakri went back to the room. I had this big cart there of food. He like wiped it off. He was all pissed off. We lost. And he's like, you just got to get big. And I was like, all right. So I went home. I had this bright idea. I had all these Serostim kits in my fridge. I had hundreds of them because I was selling them at the time. And I was like, I'm going to do 10 IUs a day. I'm going to increase it every day. So like each week I'll go to like 10, then 20 IUs, then 30, and I'll just blow up real quick. So I got to day 10 and I was up from 235 to 305, like 295, 305 in like under 10 days. So I went in the hospital because I could not walk. My feet were so swollen. They were ripping socks. My ankles were like the size of my calf.
Yeah.
The edema was horrible. Bro, I was in the hospital for like 3 weeks until all the water came off. They had to pump fluids through me for like literally 2 weeks straight because the water was not coming off because I was still rebounding from the show.
And you were holding everything.
They didn't understand what was going on, though. And I was like, I shot growth hormone. They're like, what? Like, what are you? And I was like, I shot like 50 IUs the other day. They're like, what? They didn't know what I was even talking about. Now, mind you, I was eating food that literally just like caught up to me. And like, literally took 3 weeks for the water to come off. And I wasn't even eating. They were like giving me liquid IVs all day long. And like, I think it was the sodium, but I kept telling them like, no more sodium, no more sodium. It's just like, they thought I was gonna have a heart attack. They should have given me. I kept saying, I said, give me a diuretic. They wouldn't give me a diuretic. They wouldn't give me shit. So I sat there miserable for 3 weeks in a hospital bed after that show. And I blew my whole rebound. Fucking wasted.
Craziest thing I did is I did an IV.
Oh,
just to try it.
IV.
Oh yeah, let me tell you, that was good.
Was it really? I never tried that.
Oh yeah. I'll never forget it. My whole body got hot, and it felt like I got a pump, like I worked out. Wow. I did a post workout.
No one do this.
I'll try it. Yeah, don't do it. Don't. I just did it to try because it is prescribed to do that. But
understand why not? If there's any impurities, you're using Chinese stuff, whatever. Your liver and kidneys. I mean, your kidneys can filter, but your liver can't filter. Yeah. You just skipped your liver.
Yeah.
EPOs.
Yeah, I use Humatrope. I had it straight from the pharmacy. I had a prescription for it at the time. So
EPO is supposed to go in the vein too, though.
Mm-hmm.
EPO.
Yeah, well, most of all that stuff they have it for IV. But yeah, I'll never forget that.
People do that all the time. I get messaged all the time about that too. Like, I'm gonna mainline my growth hormone. I'm like, good luck.
Talk about a risk of infection. I tried it once just to be an idiot, but guys, do not do that every day. And no,
it wouldn't.
But yeah, that was the stupidest thing I ever did.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be the best option because it'll just be faster. I mean,
it's quick. Yeah.
But I want to say one funny. To me, this is a funny story because the whole time I've never been a bodybuilder. I was always into strength stuff. So I've just been following these boards just to learn about steroids. And the problem is, you guys are all trying to get huge. I'm trying to get strong. So I don't know what works or what doesn't work. So I'm using GH15 stuff, trying like Tren. This is
everything.
I'm getting like, you know what happens when you do Tren every day and you're a powerlifter? You get like nervous and wrecked. You nervous fatigue basically.
Yeah.
So you can't do that. That doesn't work. I learned. Anyway, long story short, I tried so much GH on and off. My nose got bigger, my nose got wider, my ears got bigger. I got uglier every time I would do it a little bit. And then finally I met a really top powerlifter who became a close friend of mine. And I asked him, you know, and he looks like he did a lot of GH. So I was like, did you do a lot of GH? He said, yeah, I used to get from the HIV guys. I used to use 30 units for years. So, and I was like, did you get stronger? He said, zero. It did nothing for my strength. I was like, oh, me too. I got weaker. He's like, yeah, I got weaker. So if anyone is a strength athlete, GH does not help at all. Unless you want to be super heavyweight. You just want to be big.
Yeah.
What about if you were to add insulin to it?
You just get bigger. So you could be a super heavyweight, but you don't really get stronger. It's weird. You don't get directly stronger. I mean, you get bigger eventually. Maybe you get stronger, but it weakens the muscle fibers in some way. Do you notice that very tall people are never like giants are always like leaning on the side? Their muscles don't work well.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. They're very muscularity. It's not there. I don't think the muscular strength's there. It's weird.
Yeah, and don't you notice people use GH a lot, develop like tears, muscle tears, tendons.
Yeah. I always said that I felt like my tendons and ligaments were weaker when I would use good doses of it. I always felt like I was like on the verge of snapping something when I did a lot of it.
I think it's responsible for why my bicep, like I had a tiny tear in my bicep. It never tore fully, but like it got weaker, my right bicep.
Yeah.
My left bicep's now stronger. And I think it was.
Do you think, now I'm not trying to plug my SAR, I'm just talking about MK677. Do you think that has better effects for us?
Well, MK677 is clear. I've read all the studies on the subject. And they're united in one thing. So it has a consistent effect that there's no tachyphylaxis, meaning that the effect doesn't decrease if you stay on for a year and a half, which is the long study.
Right.
What happens is IGF-1 goes up by 50% and growth hormone goes up by, if I recall correctly, 80%. And that stays consistent. So if somebody wants to increase that, they can. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to help you grow much bigger. You're also going to get more cortisol because MK677 is a ghrelin mimetic, not a growth hormone. It agonizes. It eventually affects growth hormone, but it agonizes the ghrelin receptor.
Yep.
It'll give you. They have more cortisol, which I guess it doesn't matter because they still gain weight. The other thing about MK677, it doesn't actually make people lose fat, unlike growth hormone, because ghrelin makes you hold. So it's really anabolic actually.
Yeah.
And then the thing that's great about it though, it's one of the only drugs shown to improve REM and non-REM sleep. Usually, if non-REMs improve, REM is worse, or vice versa. This one improves both. Even elderly people, even a year and a half later, it's still their sleep is better.
Yeah.
And the other great thing about it is ghrelin is very good for the brain. Although I'm going to make a video on this, there's some side notes. But
okay.
All right. Bob, thank you for staying with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Bob. Maybe we can get you on again and do we'll figure like a particular angle to hit that we, maybe people want to hear about specifically. Like, we don't have to do like a long, drawn out podcast with it, but maybe something, because I get like so many questions about your end of stuff that I would like to maybe answer it to, so we have them, because like there's so many particular things that kids have interest in that I can't really elaborate.
Maybe do like a post or something next time and ask, like, if you had questions for the.
Yeah, especially,
undercover drug dealer or whatever.
Drugs Inc.
As GH15 would call him. A good
Yeah.
chef.
Yeah.
What did he call it?
He used to call them chefs.
Oh, chefs.
Yep.
Okay.
Chefs, yeah. And he had like his little chefs or elves. He had elves. I don't know.
Oh, he used to do the elf thing. The elf thing. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember the elf thing.
Yeah, his elves would send him the packs.